Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo. Bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jed Lee. Welcome to Reading with Your Kids. We are coming to you from the beautiful, wonderful, historical, love-filled neighborhood of Reedville, located in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so very honored and absolutely delighted that you are joining us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. We do that by sharing fun, thoughtful, and thought-provoking conversations with fascinating people who just happen to be writing books for kids of all ages. You can join us in this mission by telling all of your family and friends about the show and letting them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network, and they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, CastBox, Player FM, Audible, Ghana, YouTube, Amazon Music. Wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. This is a very special episode of Reading with Your Kids. First up, Dr. Dale Atkins is here to celebrate the Turquoise Butterfly. Later in the show, Jenn Moudahi is here to celebrate Charlotte's new moccasins. This is a special episode of Reading with Your Kids. I usually don't dedicate episodes to any one person, but today's episode is dedicated to my grandmother, Julia, also known as Nana. And I also want to dedicate it to what Dr. Dale Atkins calls the Eternality of Love. You know, every once in a while, life gives you a moment that feels like somebody reached back through time, tapped you on the shoulder and said, "Hey, kid, remember this?" A couple of weeks ago, I was blessed with one of those moments. In my interview with Dr. Dale, you're going to hear me mention that a couple of weeks ago, I was at TD Garden here in Boston with my daughter, my son-in-law, and my brother-in-law to see the WWE Pro Wrestling. We were there to witness our local hero, John Cena's last match in Boston. And we were sitting in a luxury suite, the kind of thing a 12-year-old me couldn't even imagine, because when I was 12 years old, the idea of luxury suites and arenas hadn't become a thing. And if they had existed, I was way too poor to even get close to one. There were a bunch of kids in the suite with their dads. I guess they were like 10, maybe 12 years old, absolutely losing their minds every time the music hit or a wrestler ran down the aisle. And at one point, I looked over at my daughter, and I pointed to those kids, and I said, that was me when I was 12. Because it was. I grew up going to the old Boston Garden, the real one, the smoky, stinky, echoing, sticky-floored garden where the rafters shook every time my hero, Bruno Sammartino, walked through the curtain. I didn't go with my buddies. I didn't go with my cousins. I went with someone way more special. I went with my grandmother, my Nana. We'd sit in our favorite loge section, the perfect view. We'd buy a program for every match. Didn't matter who was wrestling. Didn't matter what the matches were. If Bruno was on the card, me and Nana were there. Here's the thing. As a kid, I thought I was watching wrestling. But looking back, I was experiencing love. My grandmother made those nights magical. She made the walk, the train ride, the arena feel like the center of the universe for me. Wrestling was just the excuse. The real main event was spending time with her. So when John Cena's music hit last week in our hometown for his final match, the building absolutely erupted. Don't believe me? Give a listen. That pop rattled my bones. And in that split second, I wasn't in a suite at TD Garden anymore. I was back at the old Boston Garden next to my grandmother. screaming along with 13,000 other people for Bruno. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't hearing the fans scream for John Cena. I was hearing my grandmother. Her voice, her laughter, her joy. Every cheer she ever let loose in that building came rushing back. And I realized a moment like this doesn't come from wrestling or basketball or a concert. It comes from family. It comes from love. From love that refuses to fade. So today, I want to say thank you, Nana. Thank you for every match, every train ride, every program, every bowl of spaghetti, every cheer. Thank you for giving me a passion that I now get to share with my family, just the way you shared it with me. And thank you for reminding me, even now, that the magic between us never really goes away. Because a couple of weeks ago, in that arena, I felt it again. And it was beautiful. Join us right now from the beautiful state of Connecticut. Our guest is here today to celebrate her new picture book. It's called The Turquoise Butterfly. Please welcome to the show, Dr. Dale Atkins. Hey, Dr. Dale, how are you?
I'm so great, and I'm so happy to be on your show and to talk with you about my new book.
Tell us about the book. What a beautiful title, The Turquoise Butterfly.
Thank you. Well, my late mother, whose name was Sylvia, hence Grandma Sylvia in the book, was really like a butterfly, and her favorite color was turquoise. And so when I envisioned this book, I really wanted to honor her memory, and I wanted her to be a part of this project. And I had to call it The Turquoise Butterfly. And because since her passing, and even before, every time we all saw butterflies in our family, we always knew that Sylvia was nearby. And now even more so since she's gone, people see butterflies and they call me and they think, oh, your mom's here, and things like that. So the turquoise butterfly is just a sign of the eternality of love. And so I'm hoping that people will relate to whatever symbol speaks to them. For me, it's the butterfly in that way.
I love that expression. I wrote it down, the eternality of love. What a beautiful thought. And I was just speaking to a woman who is an adoption expert, an adoptive mom, and talking about, choosing to love someone, that we all make a choice to love, and to be able to think that choice can be eternal. What a beautiful thought.
Well, that's my purpose in writing this book, is that death is part of life. Mm-hmm. But memory allows us to keep our loved ones with us. And the more we create memories together, the more we'll be able to feel enriched by their memories, and we can kind of call them up whenever we need them, whenever we're reminded of them. And we can do it in such a way that it brings us a feeling of love and comfort and belonging to a legacy of a family or a neighborhood. I wrote the book about a grandmother and granddaughter, but there are so many wonderful intergenerational relationships that really can be nurtured in this way, so that when we think of these people, we feel their love, we feel their connection, and we're reminded of how we were changed by them and how we might have influenced them, but mostly what they gave us, so that it lives on within us. And that's the eternality of love. Yeah.
Boy, I just, this is going to sound so silly, but that's okay. I just attended, for the first time in a decade or so, the WWE in Boston Garden. And it was a very, very special moment. I was there with my daughter and my son-in-law and my brother-in-law. What was special was, even though it's different buildings, my grandmother and I would go to the WWE every month from the time I was in fourth grade through high school. And it was such that we've so many special memories. And I remember sitting out and just looking, and there were some 10 and 12-year-old kids in front of us. And I turned to my daughter at one point and I said, that was me when I was 10. And my grandmother was sitting next to me. And that was a nice memory.
That is exactly what I'm hoping people will feel and exchange with their next generation when they read The Turquoise Butterfly. And you did it. And you allowed, and it's so not silly. It is so purposeful. It is so opening of the heart and sharing the stories that we have. This is what this whole book is about. Encouraging people to share stories about their own lives with their grandchildren or their nieces and nephews or their neighbors so that they get a sense of what their life was like and how it is now part of this other person's life. So that you've had an experience and now she's going to have an experience that she knew you had with your mom or grandma. And it's just this continuity that is so important for all of us in a world that is very disjointed and very disconnected, for each child to feel that there's something that they belong to that's larger than they are, that is going to continue after they're gone, and more specifically, that whatever they learn from and observe from their grandparent or great uncle or whomever, that is really now a part of them, and that's the legacy part of this. So what I hope to do is have people share those stories and little tidbits, because it's not really lecturing, it's not teaching, it's just sharing and watching how children soak up these stories and how they interpret them and what they mean to them and how they retell the stories. I love listening to children tell stories that they heard from older people, because it's incredible what they've sifted through and how they like to make them their own stories.
Yeah. I've talked about the beauty of intergenerational friendships for many, many years here on Reading with Your Kids. But I'm a dopey podcaster. You're a relationship expert. You're the doctor. You're the psychologist. Talk, please, a little bit about the benefits of these intergenerational relationships, grandparents, great uncles with young kids.
They are so beneficial in so many ways, spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally. When we have intergenerational relationships and we are engaging with them over time, we notice that both sides of the equation, the young person and the older person, benefit. For older people, they benefit physically because they're generally more physically active when they are with younger people. And they also, when they're together and they're having fun and they're engaging in an activity, they get a hit of dopamine and they really feel these wonderful, wonderful emotions of joy. Often there's an exchange of kindness. There's a calmness together. Even if they're doing something exciting, they're rooting for a team, they're making a project, they are getting endorphins released, and these are the happy hormones. So people generally feel better. They feel connected, and that's actually a benefit for both the younger person and the older person. And that connection is not just when you are really close to each other. It is a connection in our spirit. It's a connection that we get the same joke and we're laughing. It's a connection that we remember a memory together and we can roll our eyes. Whatever it is, that makes us feel bonded. And there's so much isolation and there's so much loneliness, particularly with older people, that when they feel this connection and they know that there is a part of them that's going to be continuing in this younger person, whatever it is, it can be their DNA or it can just be a series of experiences, they also feel a sense of purpose. And that is really important. For one of the benefits is that we all have to feel a sense of meaning and a sense of purpose. So that if you are with someone and you are engaged in sharing something, learning something together, or teaching a child something that you knew, that you did, passing down a recipe, doing an art project, looking at art, reading your favorite book together, there is this connection and there is the sense of purpose. For the children, very often they feel as if that there's this person who's their model and they can learn from them, and they might admire them, but they might also mimic them in their behavior, in their tone, and they can play together, and they feel that they have an older playmate, an older teacher, someone other than their parent who has wisdom, who has experience, often that they're not as critical as their parents might be, so they can get away with more, and they can be their authentic selves. They don't have to impress. They can just have fun. They can just go along for the ride. The other area where I find people are constantly sharing with me how they are benefiting from these experiences with younger people or older people is this very deep, very, very deep spiritual connection, that they feel a calmness, that they feel a sense of I want to say otherworldliness for some people, and they feel, again, this continuity, but not just for now, that they will stay when they're no longer here. You know, in many religions, people say that people die twice, once when their body gives out, and once when no one any longer remembers or talks about their name, uses their name and talks about them. To know that you have a connection with someone that will outlive you, to share at a table that you're using your grandmother's dishes, or you're going to use a recipe that you remember from when you were a child, or that you bring out a bowl that's been in your family for a long time, and you tell the story about what you remembered about that. Or when we used to play chess, or we'd go and play football, and remember when this one got injured, and then that was the end of Thanksgiving because we had to go to the hospital. These are the little stories that make us feel not only connected, but spiritually connected, and connected in fact together. The other thing that really is a benefit is that emotionally, we have an opportunity to experience different emotions. Because if we're only in our own routine and we're not interacting with someone from a different generation, we can't really experience the wonder that they might experience when they are doing something for the first time, because we're not with somebody who's doing something for the first time. Routine is very healthy and helpful, but it can also be a little boring. So one of the benefits is that we're exposed to something new, a different perspective, a different way of looking at the world. When you look at a movie through your grandchild's eyes, you're going to see something very different from what you saw in the movie. And you can exchange that, and you can learn from each other. The same is true, by the way, with reading a book, and I'm sure you have this with all of the authors you talk to. Mm-hmm. The way you wrote a book and the way you expected it to be received may not be exactly how the audience receives it. And that's so interesting to see, what do they see on the page? What does this passage mean to them when it may not even be what you intended? And that's what happens in intergenerational relationships. We're open to a whole new way of looking and seeing and experiencing the world. And I think that's breathtaking.
I agree with you. And as we're speaking here, I'm thinking that the Turquoise Butterfly, this is a pitch for grandparents to buy this book so they can read with their kids and get more connected with their kids and find more reasons to spend time with their grandkids and grandnieces and nephews.
I couldn't agree with you more. Many parents are buying the book for their parents and giving it to the grandparents so that they will have ideas about how to interact with their grandchildren. Because sometimes there are some grandparents who say, well, we have nothing in common, or I don't understand what they're doing, or they're always on their devices, all of which may be true. But there are ways that we can really connect with our grandchildren. And some of it may involve devices, but then that leads to something else. Mm-hmm. And that leads to a different type of communication. And in the book, what I really tried to emphasize was how we can also work with a child and be with a child who might be a little different from the way we are. In the book, the little girl, Victoria, feels some anxiety about starting new things and having different experiences that she's a little hesitant about. And she's with her grandmother, who is this very bold and adventurous person. And, but she doesn't pull her grandchild along. She patiently goes step by step, encouraging her and trying to see the world through her granddaughter's eyes. And over time, we see how the granddaughter incorporates many, many aspects of the grandmother, but also the grandmother is now needing her grandchild a little bit more in a little different way than she did when they first started having their adventures. And then eventually, the little Victoria has to learn to live without her grandmother. Mm-hmm. And when her grandmother passes away, she is filled with sadness, but also an awareness that she has learned so much from her grandmother. And one of the things she learned was how to be bold and how to show up and how to get through when she's feeling anxious, that she can still do things, that she still has a resilience. And then she'll see a butterfly and that'll remind her of her grandmother. So there's this continuity that grandparents, I hope when they read the book, will see themselves and see, where can I fit into my grandchild's life in a way that will be comfortable for both of us.
Yeah. Talk a little bit, please, about how can we encourage our kids to take a chance? Because you mentioned in the story that the grandchild has to deal with saying goodbye to the grandmother and
yes.
saying that. And that's one of the things, like every relationship we have is going to end in sorrow at some point, because someone's going to die, or maybe we get angry at each other. But, every relationship will end. Hopefully there'll be lots of love from the time it started but a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to take a chance. I don't want my heart to be broken. And for a little kid, it's like, how can we encourage them to know that there is going to be some pain, but it's okay because it's worth it. There's going to be all this wonderful stuff that's going to make it worthwhile.
It's exactly what you said. When they are with an older person who is encouraging and who is comforting and who is steady with them and steady for them and with them, holding their hand metaphorically or actually, and letting them know that they can do this, whatever this is, that yes, it will be challenging and yes, it will be painful at times, but you will get through it and you will be able to learn from this and grow from this. That's also the other reason I use the butterfly, because the most difficult time for a butterfly is when it's the chrysalis and it's struggling and struggling to become who it's supposed to become. Mm-hmm. And that time is very difficult, but yet there is a transformation. So if the grandparent or whoever the older person is can talk about their own experiences of when they struggled and when it was really hard and they wanted to avoid something or they didn't want to face something because they were so frightened they'd get hurt, but then they did, and how they grew from that and what it taught them, not in any way other than this was my story. And now with your story, you might be able to do this hard thing because we are all rooting for you and we know you can do it. And remember when you did that other thing that was so hard, but you did it, you gritted your teeth and you were shaking, but you did it. And now you're proficient at that. So it's about encouraging, not forcing, and it's about reassuring. And I think that that's what we do. And to your point about loss and sorrow, for most children, their grandparents are going to be the first people that they love who they'll lose. And so what I find so helpful is to make it a part of life, not to be dour and depressing, but, and when I'm not here, I hope you'll remember when you hear that song, how we sang it. Or when you hear this song from this show, you'll remember how we danced to that. And these are the things that I always want you to remember because I'm always going to be with you. You'll always feel me around you. Just know that I'm going to be on your shoulder. I'll be with you whenever you need to have advice. Somehow we'll always be connected. So that the love is what's the eternal aspect. And yes, you'll be sorry because I won't be here. And yes, you'll miss me and I'll miss you. But look what we have created together. We have created an amazing relationship, and that you will always have. In the book, there's a page where after the little girl finds out that her mother has died, she's sitting among the photographs. And in the previous page, she was sitting among the photographs, thinking of all the things that she was going to do with her grandmother the next summer. Now she's sitting among the photographs with 2 boxes of tissues because she's so sad that she's not going to be with her grandmother anymore, which is so normal. Of course she's sad and she misses her grandmother. But then we see how she's integrated so much of her grandmother's strength, and she does something really bold. She's going to go to camp. And when she goes to camp, the first thing she sees is a butterfly. And so I think that if the adult is not afraid to approach death, I think that it's so helpful for children because they don't have to be afraid. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, my mother used to take me to the cemetery where her parents were buried. And we would tend the grave and we would talk about them. And she would tell me all these stories as we were sitting at the grave. And then we would come home and I would wear a little necklace that my grandmother had left for me. She died before I really knew her. She died when I was 2. But there was a bracelet and I had a necklace, and my mother would always talk about her as if she's part of her life because she was part of our life. Even though I didn't know her as a person, I knew her through my mother's stories, and that was so healthy for my mother. And now I have a sense of who she was. So I just feel that if adults can talk to kids about the joy that they have when they're together and how these are memories that we are building because this is our life together now. The other message is that everything is temporary. So that we must be present in every moment we have with our grandchildren and with everybody in our family, because we never know what's going to happen. But we do know that we have this moment with them now, and we want to make it special. We don't have to make it perfect, and it doesn't have to be everything like out of a magazine, just that we feel connected. And that's what kids need. And that's what adults need.
I love it. And you know, it's, as we were talking about the turquoise butterfly, and that, but every time we see a butterfly, we think of my I'm just pulled back to a moment down in Costa Rica with my beautiful wife, my daughter, and her, now her husband. And we were in the rainforest, and this big, ginormous blue butterfly landed on my shoulder, and there's a picture of me and this butterfly on my shoulder, and my wife's like, "Oh, the butterfly brings out your eyes," but it was that this wonderful moment, and I was so happy we were able to share it with my daughter and with the man who's now my son-in-law, to be able to have that, and we're always going to have that.
You will always have that moment. I love that it happened in Costa Rica. I will share with you that the illustrator of the book, Amelina Jones, is from Costa Rica, and my daughter-in-law is from Costa Rica. And one of the most wonderful moments that we had together as an extended family was at my son and daughter-in-law's wedding in Costa Rica, and my mother was there. And
beautiful.
And it was beautiful. She lived to be almost 98 years old and still wearing turquoise and still dancing and doing whatever she was doing, which was enjoying life. But I love that you had that experience in Costa Rica.
Oh, what a beautiful, and we went to Costa Rica. We stayed, in San Jose, the capital city in the valley, and we didn't realize it was the rainy season. It rained every single day.
Yes.
But we had a wonderful, wonderful time, and we climbed. We climbed the volcano.
The volcano. Yes.
Volcano Poas, and it was during a monsoon. I mean, I have never been rained on so much, but it was great. And we joke about it now, and we have those, like, remember on the van going back to the hotel and we're free.
And that's the story. That is the story of that trip in Costa Rica. The butterfly, the torrential rain, climbing the mountain and grabbing on. Those are the stories that we need to share. And you were so lucky that your daughter and future son-in-law were there to create the story. They're part of the story. And I think that that is what is so essential about intergenerational relationships. It's not just telling a story. That's important too, but it's sharing, making each experience a shared experience, a shared adventure, a shared story. And I think that that's really what my message is.
Awesome. You know, one of the things I've realized as I look back at the stories that we share as a family, a lot of them are of mistakes.
Yes.
And of choosing to go to San Jose, Costa Rica during the rainy season.
Yes.
And we're laughing about, and I think there are a lot of people out there who are so afraid of making mistakes that they don't act on anything. And like I said, I mean, most of my memories just involve terrible mistakes. My 35 years on stage, the memories I have of when I messed up and how we got out of it. And, yeah, those are much better than the perfect show. Well, I don't know if I ever had a perfect show, but,
but that's so true. And to take it a step further, I'm so grateful that you brought that up. When we tell stories, sometimes we think we only have to tell the good stories, you know, that this person was a perfect person. It's kind of like a eulogy. And no, this person was a normal person, and you're part of the legacy of this person. And you have this quality like that person, but you don't have that quality like that person. And because we're all human and we all make mistakes, but we also, if we own up to them and we talk about them and we integrate them, it's all part of our weave. That what did I learn from that? What did I learn? Well, next time I'll probably check the weather when I go down to Costa Rica. But in the meantime, did you mope while you were there? No, you made the best of it and you've had wonderful memories. And I think that this is also a message of the book. We have to adapt no matter where we are and what's in front of us. And children need to see their grandparents and their parents as adapters rather than, oh, no, we can't do that because it's not the way we thought it was going to be. And that goes back to what you were referring to before about taking risks. Well, it may not work out the way we want, but it'll work out the way it's going to work out, and we're going to try it. And we're going to make the best of it. And if we do that, if that's the way we live, if that's our value, then kids learn not to be so afraid. They learn that it's going to be okay if it's not perfect, but I did it. And they'll talk about it, and we'll talk about it with them. And I think that those are the stories that people relate to, that they can write about on their own when they write in their diaries about what was outstanding about this trip, and get everybody's ideas. And maybe write those down as you make a photo book about a trip or something like that. That these are the moments that were profoundly hysterical, right? And they weren't on the plan.
right. Yeah. One of the things that I'm most proud of being able to pass on to my daughter is, 'cause she used to come out on tour with me a lot, and we'd be out on the road for 3 weeks at a time, and things happen when you're driving across the country, and things happen, and she developed the ability to be able, in the middle of a crisis or an emergency, be able to sit back and say, you know, this is going to make a good story someday.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? And because her dad is a storyteller, she knew who she was talking to. But so that's the resilience. That's the adaptability to be able to have 3 weeks at a time in a car with a child. Oh my God, that's amazing. And just that alone is a story. You know, the places we went and the insights we had and the people we met. And then to be able to reflect on that, all of that made her who she is. And if she has children one day, that will be how she parents.
I certainly hope so. Dr. Dale, this has been a blast. You have to write another kid's book so we come on and talk about it again.
I'll tell you something. I did, and it took place in nature, and it happened. And I'd be happy when it's published to call you up and say, I'd love to talk about that.
That sounds like a plan. In the meantime, let's
Yes.
tell everybody where they can find to find out more about the
Turquoise Butterfly.
turquoise butterfly, and find out more about
Maybe we'll publish it in Turkey. Well, it is available you can order it from your bookstore. It's available for pre-order at Amazon and Barnes & Noble and all of those sites. But you can also go to my website, which is www.drdaleatkins.com. And that's DRDALEATKINS.com. And you can order it directly from the publisher through my website, or you could go directly to the publisher. But the official pub date is January 6th. And so if you pre-order it, you'll have it around that time. And if you go to my website, you could probably have it in 3 or 4 days because it's already at the warehouse. And I'm delighted to share it with you. And I'm so happy to be on your show and just thank you for highlighting it. And I hope that, your listeners will enjoy it and that, they'll let me know what their thoughts and feelings are about it because I'm really eager to hear people's responses.
That will be wonderful. We've had a really insightful time speaking to the author of The Turquoise Butterfly. Our guest has been Dr. Dale Atkins. Dr. Dale, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you so much. Take good care and have a good holiday.
Yeah. Sometimes we miss someone we love, but their love shines on from above. A little sign can make us smile, like a butterfly resting for a while. But love goes on, it never goes away. It lives in our hearts every single day. When a turquoise butterfly floats by me, I feel your love as warm as can be. Stories we share keep love alive. Memories help our hearts to thrive. Even when someone can't be here, their love stays close, forever near. Love goes on, it never goes away. It lives in our hearts every single day. When a turquoise butterfly floats by me, I feel your love as warm as can be. Love goes on. Love goes on. Forever in our hearts, so strong. Love goes on.
Join us right now from the beautiful province of British Columbia. Our guest is here today to celebrate her new picture book. It's called Charlotte's New Moccasins. Please welcome to the show, Jenn Moudahi. Jen, I'm sorry. Jen, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here.
I wrote out the name phonetically and then I went back in my memory and I shouldn't have done that. It's Jenn Moudahi. Jen, tell us about Charlotte's New Moccasins, please.
Yeah, Charlotte is a young girl who loves dancing and playing in her moccasins, and one day she's pretty devastated to find out that her moccasins are too small now. There's something special her grandma has made for her, and as she's trying to brainstorm what to do about it, they decide, her and her mom go to grandma's house, and together Charlotte gets to be a part of making moccasins for the first time, making a brand new pair. And she gets to be involved with all of the decisions, what kind of leather she wants, what kind of fur she wants on the cuff, the beadwork, and start to learn that skill from her grandma.
What a neat thing. And talk about building a memory that would last a lifetime for Charlotte. I mean, that's so very cool to be able to go and do this thing with your grandmother that people in your family have been doing for generations.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things I really love about kind of how this book ended up being is that, on the surface, they're making moccasins and they're fixing this little problem that Charlotte has. But yeah, it is really about the memories and the passing of the knowledge and learning this thing that's been important to culture for generations.
I'm imagining people are hearing about this and thinking, that's cool, but I don't have time to make moccasins. We just got to go down to, the guys with the referee shirts and get a new pair and be on our way.
Totally. Yes. I'm realistic. I don't expect everybody to read this and decide they're going to make their own pair. But I do hope that there's maybe a desire to do something creative or to do something with a family member or learn something from a family member. Something unique about Charlotte's new moccasins is she decides to pick 2 different colors of leather, which is not, air quote, traditional in the sense of what maybe people have seen in the past. And so I think there's also this theme of doing something that's traditional while also still maintaining like your little unique personal flair or your little, making it you as well.
Yeah. Boy, as somebody who broke all sorts of traditions growing up, I know I just have a gray hoodie on today, but this is very unusual for me. It's, I grew up with I'm going to date myself. I grew up with the purple velour bell bottoms and the belt that was a guitar strap and had fringe and hung down to my ankles. And I got so much grief at my traditional Catholic high school.
Oh, no. Yeah, they might not have loved that.
But, it's funny because the more grief I got for it, the more determined I was that I was going to hold on to it and I was going to live my truth away.
Totally. Yeah. You're just being you and not apologizing for it. I love it.
What a great message to share for kids. Now, in the story of Charlotte's New Moccasins is, do we talk about that? Do we talk about, hey, Charlotte, we don't normally mix these leathers up here together. What's up with that?
It's subtle. It's mentioned very briefly. And basically, Charlotte's having a really hard time choosing. And Grandma actually suggests, well, what about 2? And Charlotte says, wow, I've never seen moccasins with 2 pairs or 2 colors before. And so it's this kind of thing that evolves naturally in the moment between the both of them.
Charlotte's grandmother sounds like my grandmother.
Oh, good.
And my grandmother was like, yeah, what do you want to do? Yeah, go for it. Do it. Your dad doesn't like, let me tell you about him when he was a kid. I love that.
And it's so meaningful, I think, for us as kids and, well, even adults to have somebody that's supportive of, you and who cares if so-and-so doesn't agree, but you've got me in your corner.
I think that's so important. And I think grandparents, I'm not a grandparent right now, but I think that's something that grandparents are especially good at, or a grand uncle or grand aunt, but because it's like, well, we're not typically not taking care of you day to day. So it's okay if we let you have that extra scoop of ice cream, and it's okay if you can be yourself over here, and we can just talk. And I think kids are a little bit more open with their grandparents because, again, it's like, oh, I can trust you, and I don't know if I can tell this to my mom and dad.
I think you're onto something there. There is a different dynamic that kind of evolves with that, I don't want to say all grandparent relationships, but there's a different opportunity for different ways of connecting. And you're right, building that little bit of flexibility in there while maybe holding some boundaries.
Tell me, what inspired you to create Charlotte's New Moccasins?
So for me, it actually wasn't my grandma that I learned to make moccasins from, but my mom. And growing up, I had some pretty atypical experiences because my mom started a First Nations art business, and so I grew up in her workshop making all kinds of things with her. And sometimes I would just sit and do my own thing while she was crafting, and sometimes I was a part of the process. And so lots and lots of memories of being in that workshop with her. And in the book, Grandma has a workshop that they do all their creating. And yeah, it really stemmed from those memories as a kid.
Having something that you created in these times that we're living in, where even music is being created by artificial intelligence, it's pretty special.
I agree. Yeah, my heart hurts a little bit with all of the creative things that are getting squashed with AI. I don't completely want to hate on AI. I'm sure there's lots of places where it's useful, but yeah, the creative world is one where I'd love for it to just take a step back. I think there is the really, special feeling or I don't know, powerful feeling of creating something that's yours, whether it's moccasins or writing a book or anything really.
Yeah. And the scene that you described with you and your mom, just being in that space together as you're creating together, that's, I think that's a pretty special time to be able to share, especially if we can find that with our kids nowadays. And I'm not talking about parent being on the laptop working remotely while the kid is on their iPad. It's like we're together and we're both creating. We're not creating together, but we are in the same space as this creative energy is flowing around us.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a different kind of being present and being there than you're right. Yeah. I'm going to do kind of my work thing over here while you're beside me. Like you said, it's fully present. And I think there's also this natural kind of conversation that develops when you're focused on creating or crafting or doing something. Your mind kind of just is half there, and there's also this opportunity for connection. Like I remember my mom and I would talk about all sorts of things, and it was just easy. There's no scary direct eye contact, or you're just kind of in the zone and you're talking, and it's natural. And similar thing happens in this book with Charlotte and her grandma, that it creates this space. It opens up a time for Charlotte to talk about how things are at school, and then for grandma to share stories back. And yeah, I think that time is really precious when someone's there, fully there.
Yep. Yeah. I've shared this on the podcast. When my daughter was younger, in high school, she would come out on tour with me, as I would travel around doing my educational magic shows, and literally would come in the van and we'd travel for 3 weeks at a time. And we'd be taking these long jumps of, at one school. Now we have a 5-hour drive to the next school. And we had the most wonderful conversations for 3 or 4 hours at a time. And I think the fact that we were together and not staring at each other, that kind of facilitated that.
Totally. I love that. And she's what a cool memory for her to have been on the road with you. And yeah, those deep conversations are.
I hope it's a cool memory. She's a very successful young woman right now. She just teases me a lot, doesn't tell me about the cool memories, but that's as it should be. Jen, before we started, you were talking a little bit about there are 3 peoples in Canada, and if I'm saying these things wrong, let me know. It's coming out of ignorance and not malice. But you tell me in Canada there, whereas we refer to Indigenous people as here in the States as Native Americans, in Canada there are 3 separate groups. Talk a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So we use the umbrella Indigenous, and under that, we incorporate, like you said, 3 groups. We've got First Nations, which is generally what you would think of as Native Americans in the States. And there's Inuit, that's our northern part of the country, and then I'm part of Métis Nation, where we are actually mixed ancestry. So the Métis Nation developed after European settlers came to Canada, and they mixed with Indigenous people, and the mixed offspring ended up forming their own kind of identity and culture, language, traditions, all those pieces. So and so this book, I'm Métis, the illustrator is Métis, and the moccasins you see are a form of Métis moccasins, but there are a whole bunch of actually different styles and ways of making moccasins that just because you see it in a book this way doesn't necessarily mean any other way is right or wrong.
Right, right. And did your nation come together because of out of a want, or was it because you weren't accepted by the First Nation groups anymore, and you weren't accepted by the European culture that was moving in?
So my understanding, and I'm not a historian, I'll name that now. My understanding is there was a want and a desire. It kind of was, again, this kind of natural thing that developed, where, there's kind of pieces being pulled from both backgrounds, and a desire to, kind of mesh those and make something that was specific to this particular group. Later on, there's more of that piece where you mentioned that the government didn't believe Métis people were in like part of the First Nations group, so then they kind of got excluded from that. And then, and also maybe First Nations didn't necessarily think that Métis people were like Europeans, like they kind of didn't fit in anywhere. And for a long time, we were actually called half-breeds. And so it was, dicey, for lack of a better word. But it initially came from a place of a desire for, that own identity and that own culture, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And in your community, do folks are folks still getting together with their mothers and grandmothers and making their own moccasins?
There's a bit more of that. So Métis people, just like many other Indigenous people, that experience was squashed for a long time, and there wasn't really an opportunity for that. And so there's kind of a little bit of a revival happening now, where even a lot of Métis people, including myself, don't know our own language. And so there's things happening where we can, start to revive some of that, and lots of community activities or resources to connect more with parts of the culture. Like some of us are maybe more familiar with certain aspects, and other people didn't have that experience growing up and they know this other thing. So I don't want to say that and everybody is doing this.
Sure.
Because that's not true. But I do think there's a bit more of that wanting to connect with the Métis culture now.
I think that Charlotte's New Moccasins would be a great conversation starter within a family. What specific kind of conversations do you think families might have as they're curled up on the couch reading this book?
Yeah, great question. I hope that there's a discussion about, I guess, depending on what this family is aware of in Canada, but I hope there is a little bit of a discussion about Indigenous people and a little bit of the history there. I'd love for there to be a discussion just about these family traditions and things that get passed down, and maybe the importance of that connectedness. And those other pieces I mentioned earlier of, I want the theme of like individuality, and that we can do traditional things without it being, boring or the same as it always has been. I believe tradition can evolve, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And maybe even just things like relationships in family and who do we feel connected to? Who do we have in our life that you can create this special relationship like Charlotte has with her grandma? Things like that. But Charlotte also has a special nickname in this book that's a special nickname from her grandma. So maybe there could even be a little bit of dialogue about nicknames and how that feels to have, because I think nicknames can be really personal and special. Sometimes we get them at school and they're not desired, but sometimes there's ones from our close friends or family that are, they just hold a little special place that's just for you and a few people.
What a neat thing it would be if at the end of reading Charlotte's New Moccasins, a kid turns to their parent and says, I'd like to spend more time with grandma or grandpa.
Yes.
And the parents go, yeah, let's make that happen.
That would make me so happy.
Tell everybody where they can go to find out more about Charlotte's New Moccasins and find out more about you.
You can go to my website. It's Jenn Moudahi, Jenn with 2 N's, Jenn, speaking of individual preferences. Jenn, and my last name is Moudahi.com. You could also just Google me, and that should come up. My book is in most of your bookstores, so finding your little indie bookstore, or if you're an Amazon fan, you can find it there.
We've had a great time speaking to the author of Charlotte's New Moccasins. It's the new picture book from our guest, Jenn Moudahi. Hey, Jenn, thanks for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thanks so much. This is great.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids and will join us for the next exciting episode of the show. If this episode moved you, gave you something to smile about, or gave you something to think about, please consider sharing a link to the show with someone you love. Write a 5-star review and, of course, subscribe to the show wherever you find your favorite shows. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our guest, Dr. Dale Atkins. Please be sure to check out the Turquoise Butterfly. And also Jenn Moudahi. Please be sure to check out Charlotte's New Moccasins. I want to thank my team, Chris Doherty, Fatima Khan. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the love that she gives me. I want to thank my grandmother for all the love that she showed me when I was a kid. Most of all, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank you for all the love that you are helping your kids and the people in your life experience. You know, you're making the world a better place, and you're doing that every time you read with your kids and every time you go to the WWE with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.
Sometimes we miss someone we love, but their love shines on from above. A little sign can make us smile, like a butterfly resting for a while. But love goes on, it never goes away. It lives in our hearts every single day. When a turquoise butterfly floats by me, I feel your love as warm as can be. Stories we share keep love alive. Memories help our hearts to thrive. Even when someone can't be here, their love stays close, forever near. Love goes on, it never goes away. It lives in our hearts every single day. When a turquoise butterfly floats by me, I feel your love as warm